award system, and like with Sarah's group last week, actually, we were writing, and I was like, okay, you can finish writing, and then I'll show you a picture of what's he obsessed with?
Hedgehogs.
Hedgehogs. So I showed them hedgehogs, and it worked out for our writing assignment. But so yeah, just so they can make that connection to real life, and because endangered species, it was kind of confusing to them, even though they were in 5th grade.
Can I use the computer just for a website? So when I was tutoring, a lot of the resources I need were very specific. Like my whole unit was on colonial life and talking about, okay, what kind of clothing did they wear? What did the young girls do? What kind of houses did they live in? And trying to find that information for an instructional reader who's not really on grade level was very difficult. So a lot of times I would look up these books and they'd be all excited, and then I kind of nowhere has them. Well, I found this website called Open Library, and actually you can sign up for a free account, and it has ebooks. Like, I've been able to find so many. I shared it with my school, and they've been benefiting from it as well. It's really like it's through a nonprofit, archive.org, which also has, like, if you go to archive.org, they have free movies and music and software. And I'm assuming since it's through that, that's why it's free, but it's really cool. So what you do is you just sign up, and then you can click on borrow, and then it'll show you the book. Do we have time for me to, like, because it might have kept.
Yeah, I'm logging in.
Hopefully I can remember my password. Okay, so I think this is the title. Very vague. So what I did is, obviously there are tons of information in books on colonial life, so then you can go to this side, and actually in the subjects, they have a juvenile literature section, and then that way you could only get the ones that you needed, and this book was actually one of the ones I used. And so then I just clicked borrow right here, and they ask you if you want to, like, you can actually download it to your computer if you're not going to have internet access where you're going to be, but I just always use it in the browser. And then what I could do is I could go to, like, we only did houses, so I could go to page 21. Oh, never mind. I could go to page 21 this way. And there we go. And then what I can do is, say for example, if the text wasn't as big as this, or if I needed to manipulate it a little bit for my tutee just to kind of help her be able to read it easier, I could zoom in. Well, maybe not that much, but you could definitely zoom in that much if you'd like. You could switch it to so that it's only one page to kind of help them focus. It also made it very easy because I wanted to focus specifically on the Virginia colonies since that's what they were studying, and since these the chapter on houses talked about houses in the northern colonies and everything like that, so I could easily kind of flip the page and manipulate it without her kind of feeling like, oh, you're like rushing me or whatever. So anyways, that was pretty much it. I just found it really useful, and hopefully you guys will too.
It's a great resource. We were thinking you could do that whole class. I mean, you could use those materials.
Yeah. Well, and I thought about it too. The research I'm doing, actually in Blanchett's class, talks about like a lot of what I'm writing is like the benefits to having the text on the board when you're being able to read it to them. So, like if I wanted to do like a concept of word activity and I wanted to actually pull it from a book or from a poem that was in print, I could project it and then I could highlight it and stuff like that. So.
I need that on the, I don't know how to work it.
All right, so with my student, for both of my students that I had, I did a fluency chart. And I decided to do this because one of my students doesn't have a lot of self-esteem about really anything. So I decided that this would really help her keep track and would boost her self-confidence with areas where she was struggling. So this is part of it. So the first two sections are for phrasing and rate, and you can see at the top it says what the student can do for both of them, and then it gives pictures. And I kind of explained it. I didn't have her read it. I just kind of was like, well, what do you think? And I gave examples the first time doing it, and then the second and third time and fourth time she was able to just do it on her own. This is the second page. So this is the punctuation and expression. And she circled the numbers every time in a different color. And then I did a fluency tracker chart for her. And I put in the different weeks, and then she just colored it in, and she added up all the numbers that she got, and she's increasing as she goes up, and she thinks it's awesome. So, that's it. I found it. And then I think I made this. I think it was on like a website, and I just kind of like downloaded it and changed the
So I am going to talk more about my planning modifications. I had a really hard time with my two tutees getting them to focus in on anything. Like one of them wanted to just talk and make the other one laugh, and the other one would just answer all my questions while the other one sat silently. Like it was always one or the other, but I could never get them both engaged. So I ultimately decided to separate them and have them work more independently, and then come back together for a specific discussion where I had questions and each of them needed the answer. One thing that kept us on track, especially because I had the wonderful privilege of working with Alyssa, was to give them to-do lists, and each of them had their own color highlighter. And so at the beginning of our lesson, I would say we have to get through all of these things before you leave today. Obviously, we didn't get to the word sort that day, but both sets of, me and my tutee and then Alyssa and the other tutee were able to work together. We were on track to doing almost the exact same thing. So the to-do list worked out really well, and I was actually thinking about it at the beginning of our class. We went over what we're doing today, and that we're doing it already in our classes, and I've done it with a full class of kids, like having it written on the board what we're going to do, and especially when the teachers are like, I can't get through anything. Like, I feel like I always have like 700 assignments that we have left to do at the end of the day, and I'm having to spill them over into the next day. And so with the to-do list and then seeing how much they actually have to get done, I think it really helped them stay on track. So.
So with my kiddos, they were focusing on summarizing and synthesizing through the majority of our lessons. And so each week they weren't getting to the point. They would literally write out the entire sentence and not summarize their thoughts. So I'll just show you I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well. But he would literally underline every single thing in the paragraph, and his sticky note summaries were like so long and drawn out. I'll give you some more examples. So their sticky notes just were chock full of information. They weren't very concise, and they were like all over the place. So then I kind of got thinking about like how could I make it easy for them to shrink down their summaries. And so I found this great article about top facts for riding a chariot, because ours was past and present sports. And so these are already pretty concise. So what I had them do is I had them pick their top 5 most important facts, and then I had them summarize that even more. So they would summarize the line to get straight to the point. And so this really helped them just making their own top 5 list. And any time that you do like summarizing in your class, you can get your kids to say, pull out your top 5 summaries, and even make them even more shortened and sweet and to the point, so that they really get down to the main ideas instead of having to underline everything, because they think everything's just so important, but in reality, it's not really as important. So that's what I did.
I think with summarizing, that's a classic one that is like really hard. It takes years for kids to get good at, and then they get good at it, and then we make the text harder, and it becomes hard again. But what I saw in what you were doing was kind of like graduated steps.
Right.
And a lot of times, you know, they really struggle if it's like go from this full-blown text to, you know, in one big step to a concise summary. But if you can break it down to, let's pare it down a little bit this way, and now let's take that and pare that down a little bit more, that helps them see, oh, that's what you want me to do. So,
And if
thanks for
you,
sharing that.
yeah, and if you think that you can't think of a text where you had to do it, think about research, right? When we say, give me 2 to 3 sentences of what this whole article was about, that's what it's like for them too. We know how hard that was for us, right? Okay.
Okay, so mine is it's very simple, but it worked out really well because it tied in all my lessons together, and it gave me a good introduction on the very first day to show them what they need. And really, it's just a web that we developed, so I gave them, ours was what makes a hero. So at first, I just wrote the pieces of all the different types of heroes, like superhero, which is like basic, and then the historical hero, employed hero. So this was our goal. So at first, my hope was I would start by doing it, and then by the 3rd one, that they would be able to do it. But it was right after spring break, and they seemed to have forgotten everything. So we needed a little bit more help there. But you can see where they were just developing their ideas. And this was just one STEM part of my lesson that after we did the reading, they summarized and picked their favorite parts. They talked with their partner about what they wanted to include here. And then after that, they then, kind of like what Emma was saying, then moved this information over to bringing it even simpler onto a semantic web, where they wrote the details out and compared the characteristics of the hero. So it was just one step. It's really similar to what you were describing. So very simple, and it was something we had every day. And then I put it on the table, so they remembered what we talked about before. So it was favorite. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we talked about those heroes a long time ago." But that's it. It's simple. And now they add to it every once in a while.
So here's my student artifact. This is a picture that I took on my phone of my GT. Okay, so when we did like the interview and the surveys and all that in the beginning, one of the questions that I asked her was like, you know, your favorite color, your favorite animal, and all these other questions. And she told me that her favorite animal was the bear. So I just kind of, one of the questions that was on the announcements for today, I forgot exactly how it was worded, but it just made me think of this. So I took what she told me from the interview and like things that she likes, and I kind of incorporated it into my 4 lesson plans. And so the books that I used, I made sure that they like involved bears. So we read like Goldilocks Rocks, which is like the bear's take on what is it? The three Goldilocks and the Three Bears, the original story. So it kind of puts a little twist on it. And then like we watch videos about like real bears and like how they act in their environment, and then like what happens when they get out of their environment and they end up on the highway, and like just all these little different things. So on her own over the weekend, I didn't ask her to do this, but she came back on Monday morning and came with like a huge poster of bears, and it was about this big, and she like drew her own picture. She created it herself. She wrote like a little paragraph in the paragraph it had like facts about like different types of bears, what they eat, what they do, and she had like, wow, bears are awesome, and she like wrote adjectives describing bears, because we were talking about in class, not during our tutoring sessions, but just in like, you know, during the school day, I've been getting my students to try to be more detailed in their writing, because a lot of times with the younger grades, they do like, bears are cool, bears are fun, bears are brown, like, you know, and I've been trying to get them to be like more creative in their writing and more detailed, and so we've been talking about adjectives and stuff, so it's cool to see how she incorporated what we've been learning about in class and putting it into, and like what we're learning from tutoring, and kind of incorporating it into this poster. And she even made like little quiz questions for the class. She asked me to present it to the class. So I was like, sure. And this is like, she's also an ESOL student, and like you don't really see that often with them just wanting to, and usually she like throughout the whole year she's been very shy, not the type of student that just raises their hand to volunteer, or who wants to read this, or who knows the answer to this. She's not very like one of those kids. So for her to come up to me first thing in the morning and say, Ms. Green, look, I made this, and can I share it to the class sometime today? Like, I was jumping for joy. So she made her own little quiz questions too after she shared it with the class. She was like, okay, let's do a quiz. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Talk about motivating.
Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of work in that area. That's great,
Awesome.
thank you.
Okay, so as Molly mentioned, we're working on endangered and extinct animals and plants and whatnot. And so I've been trying to use Newsella articles, so they're kind of more like about actual events like endangered or extinct animals and plants. But I hadn't, my students for the first time last week or 2 weeks ago were together for the first time. So I was working, we would work with just one of them, or they would both be gone. So I kind of figured, kind of made this like quick little worksheet that I got an idea off of Pinterest, but I kind of revamped it to fit more of what we were working on. And it's about the Lorax, and of course like that, he is like talking about endangered and extinct, like the trees. So I just had them do this writing before we actually started the lesson about like their favorite animal. And even if their animal, like for instance, like hers is a horse, so clearly they're not extinct, but on the other side I had her like ask questions of like, okay, what would happen, like what events might cause these animals to become endangered or extinct. So just try and get them to do like a little bit of writing. And then Ivy's is a hedgehog, and you can kind of see he's on a way different level. And so it's kind of nice to just see like their writing and like where they are, because I hadn't seen them both in so long, and so it's kind of like a wake-up call to me, like we're just going to keep focusing on writing for the next couple weeks, because it's kind of lacking in the departments. So yeah, that's that.
Little Ivy loves hedgehogs, and when I asked him what he thinks they eat, he said hot dogs. And then he kept going through it, and then he was like,
It was chili dogs.
oh, chili dogs, that's right.
Yep, it's chili.
And then he said, Snicker bars?
Because you're not you when you're hungry.
So my unit is working on for word studies and inflected endings, specifically ing, then we were working with ed. And so when we were working with ed, they didn't really understand what a base word was or a root word in order to add on the ending. So what I had them do was really simple. I brought in a whiteboard last week, and since we're doing dropping the E or doubling, I just had them write the word like love, and then, so I had them write the base word, and then if we're gonna E drop, just simply erasing and adding ED. Same with the doubling, if we did step, have them write the base word. I'd like to see if they had the CBC pattern at the end. If it did, they would just put the PING. Something super simple that they can just actually write out the words before they sort them, and then they'll see it throughout the sort.
I'm enjoying the border. I like the little border.
Did you make it? No, it's a Dollar Tree.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
And we're all one of them.
You're in farm?
One of the things I like about that too is we talk with our beginning readers about doing the push and say. And it's easy to have the little tiles and push them into the box, and then that starts to not work so well when you get into within Word. But you can still do something kind of like that, bringing that work with the orthography, making it more concrete by having them do very careful writing tasks like that. And the whiteboards are just awesome because it's so easy to manipulate with just the easy erase and change and put it back. Yeah.
Well, the kids love whiteboards. They love. No, granted, they have to go over rules about not playing and drawing with the expo markers, but they love them.
Yeah.
We have the paddles. We also have the paddles, so we have to go over the rule of, okay, it's called a paddle board, but it's not actually a paddle. If you lose it,
Probably one while left that.
If it's
So my essential question was, what makes a restaurant successful? So the first day, so through this essential question, I wanted to talk about like money, where the food comes from, what do you need to have a restaurant? You need to have jobs and employers, and what goes into all that. So I had all this in my head, and then the first day I said, so like, what kind of restaurants have you been to? And they're like, we haven't ever been to a restaurant. So I was like, okay. So that didn't really work well. So the next day, the next lesson, I tried to make a visual aid to help them. So I wrote out the essential questions, and I had all of the fast food places, because they had never been to like, I don't think a sit-down restaurant. They've only been to like fast food places. So I took with that and ran with it. And so once they saw the visual, they were like, oh, I've had pizza. They were like, oh yeah, I've had Subway. And so they were, so I let them glue them around, and then we kind of throughout the lessons talked about, okay, well, what are some things that we need whenever we go to these places? Oh, we need money. So they would say them, and then I would write them. And it just kind of helped connect in their heads what the essential question was and like what it was talking about. So it helped a lot. So that's all.
And those weren't just any restaurants. We scouted out what was in the Cumberland and Farmville area when we realized that it was like they're having trouble having any, prior knowledge like experience to tap into, and then you went to that extra effort to make that connection real for them. So it's really great.
Okay, so my student Jahan, his main problem when we did the writing assessment was idea development, and he could talk about it and tell me a lot of things and just talk. When it came to writing, he just like had nothing to say. So I also, like Sarah, used a lot of Newsella articles. My essential question was, should we continue to keep animals in the zoo, or are they better off in the wild? So we read a lot of articles comparing the two and looking at like what's their life like in the zoo, what's their life like in the wild. I've never been good at placing these. So this one was about polar bears and how their habitats because of global warming are fading away. So I had him highlight things about their life in the zoo in green and things about their life in the wild in pink. So like in the zoo, they kind of go back and forth, where they walk for miles and miles in the wild, stuff like that comparing. And then we took it very piece by piece. And then he used his highlights to fill in a graphic organizer. And then from there, we made Post-its. And then from there, we made sentences. And we ran out of time for this one. But just taking it every single little step at a time. Definitely helped him work out to where he could write it a lot better and create sentences, where before he could read it all and understand it and tell me about it, but when it came to writing, it was just like, so, take it up slow.
Great scouting.
Can I pull up the PowerPoint? Or where is it?
This is you, right?
Yeah.
Someone else wanna go? I wait. I'll go. Okay, thank you.
I don't really have any archives, so I can just stop, sorry. One of the things that you had some of the notes that we could talk about was a breakthrough moment. And so I've been working with my students since September, and I decided to stick with him for practicum. And he has become so frustrated with reading that he will do anything to not start reading or start our lessons. So every time I go to tutor him, he gets there to the class before I do. He has a good 5 or 10 minutes before I even get there. The moment I walk in the door and sit down and want to start, he has to go to the bathroom. When he comes back in, he has to talk to the other teacher that's in the classroom. So we wasted probably a good 10, 15 minutes. So what I started doing for our hook for reading, he loves to talk, so I thought maybe fair share would work, just kind of get him engaged about what we're going to do. And that didn't work because he didn't want to talk to me about that. He wanted to talk about what happened in math or what he did over the weekend. So then I decided to turn to technology, of course, and use like video clips. So we read a little nonfiction text about Martin Luther King Jr. And so I played part of his I Have a Dream speech. Different student. I mean, I thought something was wrong because he didn't talk. He just like zoned in on the video and he would not talk. So I tried it again and the video worked again. So then I would just, to test it, I tried to go back and do talking, and again, he just out the window, did not want to pay attention. So my breakthrough moment was using technology and videos to get him engaged, and he really likes that, so I'm probably just going to stick with it.
Okay, so my essential question is, are weapons, do they cause more harm than good? Or good than harm? I think I'm gonna say it. And so I've been using a lot of Numella, but a lot of the times with the topics, they need that prior knowledge. So I've really started to use pictures before I start, and this totally gets their attention right away. I had one on a protest. We've been doing like peaceful protests and violent protests. So in Ukraine, there's just one. So I start off with the map. So because they were like, I was like, where's Ukraine? And they were like, I don't know, what's that? So pulling up the map really helped. And I'd show them like this, and then compare it to that. And so for them, they were like, whoa, what's going on? We talked about some of the weapons that were in there, and then I'd go back and I'd say, okay, look at this city, and now look at this. What do you think the weapons did? And so it really got them talking. And an instructional moment where I made a decision was last week we started talking about how the police, they're starting to get military equipment, and I had a PowerPoint of tanks and things like that, and they started talking, and I totally didn't do the rest of my lesson, and I came to Dr. Blanchard, I was like, I hope I made the right choice, because they were so into this, and they were into the topic, and they were into the reading, and they're totally hitting on points that I've been trying to get them to talk about. So I didn't do the word knowledge, I didn't do the fluency, I just kind of ran with it, and they loved it. So, and what got them all talking were these pictures at the beginning. He was like, oh, I see that tank, I know what that is, and they started naming off these weapons I didn't even know about, and so it was cool. It was really neat to see, because that's a sensitive topic, and they did a great job with it.
I actually left my students, I had the book that I was using, so is it our book or what? You have the book up? So so I can just go to internet anywhere, is that what I do?
Open up the, one next to it.
Yeah, one more.
Is it a website?
Yeah, I was just gonna pull, just go to, just to show the cover of the book that I'm using. Okay. So, when I was trying to decide on what to do with my 2T, I went to she's 5th grade, so I went to the 5th grade teachers and I found out that I had started looking at their history SOLs, but in mathematics what they do is 4th grade teaches all of the history SOLs for 4th and 5th, and 5th grade teaches all the science SOLs for 4th and 5th. So after I found that out, I decided to do photosynthesis, because that was something that was coming up. And my 2T has problems with summarizing and picking out the important details. So I decided to use this book to focus on photosynthesis, and it's a really cute book. So the strategy that I used to help her with her summarizing and picking out the important details was kind of like a red light, green light, yellow light. So the red light stuff was what things that was important, and I gave her her essential question, which was, is human photosynthesis possible? So we know photosynthesis for plants is possible, but can humans go through? Because that's actually what the little guy in the book, his science fair project was on human photosynthesis, and he turned himself into a plant. So, and it's really, I mean, it's got a lot of the information, so she's really learning about photosynthesis, but not really realizing it. And I mean, our first lesson was like so long that her mom had to call us and ask me, was I gonna let her daughter leave? So, but by doing that, so I gave her sticky notes, the little tab ones, and all the information that she needed that was specific to her essential question, she tabbed it with red. Anything that she thought maybe would work was yellow, and then anything that, if the whole page, nothing on the page was needed, she would tab it with green. Well, that got kind of lengthy, so right now we're just tabbing only the information that she knows she needs with a red tab. And so the first lesson, though, we went through and we talked about why each thing was essential or why it wasn't. But now she's gotten to the point where she can pick up on, well, I really need this. This is not what I need. So she's only doing the red ones. But it has made a huge difference. And as one of, like, I guess my praise reports or whatever for her teacher actually gave me a call and let me know that she has met her, because they do like AR goals for them, and this was her first 9 weeks of reaching her AR goal. And she also said that her reading assessments that they've been doing had her grades, and that has come up to it's a C now where it was D's and F's. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so we're not smarter than a 5th grader?
Probably not.
So what's the answer to that question?
Is there such thing as human
According to him, it really is, because he figured out what he needed to. Whatever's in liver, and that's all he did was he ate liver. And, well, no, he didn't eat liver. He took liver and mixed it with something else and drank it. And so after that, he didn't want any food. All he wanted was sunlight and water. So every morning he would just wake up and drink lots and lots of water. And it was so funny because, like, when it was cloudy, the days it was cloudy, he would, if he was standing near a lamp, he would be leaning towards the lamp because all he needed was sunlight and water. So right now she's saying, because we're not quite done, so right now she's saying that it's not possible. So she's putting all her information in, justifying her answer. But then we're getting to the part where but is it possible? So, you know, we'll see what her outcome is afterwards, but it's been a really great lesson. I mean, it's been a great lesson for me. I've learned a lot myself. I was like, oh my God, photosynthesis? I can't remember that stuff. I just know chlorophyll, that's all I can remember. So I had to go back to school with her.
It's 1:31.
Yeah, we texted her that it might be 1:40.
Okay.
So. While they're doing that, can I just say, those of you that I have in writing, your narratives are so good. It's just, I feel kind of, I still bad for her. She didn't get to see them.
I enjoy watching them too.
Oh my gosh. So sometimes people use them in their final 691, they'll talk about them sometimes, and then we'll all get to see them. But you're so good, y'all are so smart.
Okay, so my central question was, is it fair to use animals for entertainment? And then in this particular lesson, we worked with the circus and like talking about animals and how they're used, like how they're treated in the circus. And we worked with visualization was our skill. So I wanted to try to get them like to show their thinking while they were reading. So like as the hook, I got them to draw a picture of the circus, like just to tell me right away what they thought of. So this was one of my students' drawings, and that's supposed to be the audience over there on the left, and an elephant, and then I think it's a lion, that's supposed to be like a hoop thingy. So that was what they did first, and then I got them to read, and we talked about what it means to visualize. I got them to close their eyes and think about things like that. So then in their reading, I got them to either sticky tab or highlight words or like phrases that got them to have pictures in their mind. So then after the reading, I got them to draw another picture based on what the reading made them think of about circuses. So this was one of my students' second picture, and as you can see in this picture, the elephant's sad because he's in chains. The lion is saying, "I'm not a clown," because that was in the poem that they read. And then there's people in the corner laughing at the animals and making fun of them and things like that. And then this lion over here is also in like chains and stuff. So it kind of got them. And then afterwards, we talked about how did this poem like change your mind about circuses and about animals and things like that. And it kind of related back to the question: is it fair to use animals for entertainment? So it kind of tied it all in, and it allowed them to use something to, I guess, show what they're thinking in a way. They can go back to their picture and use that as like evidence and stuff like that. So that's.
I have a couple websites.
Like official talk.
I will text you.
You can get her right while I talk about one on her. I had more of a aha moment, kind of like Kimberly did with the video clip. My student was really shy. I mean, and I had her in kindergarten, so you'd think she'd be a little more willing to talk to me. But she was very shy. By the second, third lesson, she was just so tired of basketball. It's like, we're playing basketball again? Yeah. I got this really cool video clip, so we would watch that, and she was immediately intrigued. It was like, oh, that was an awesome shot. Did you see that? And it totally opened her up. So even though she was tired of it, she was still, I was still able to grab her for the lesson. So that was my aha. So, and I've actually used it with my own class. I'll pull up Sid the Science Kid videos and songs, and I'm like, okay, so what do you think? And they're like, oh. So I've already been able to apply it. So that was very cool.
Okay, I think Ashley had shared this with Dr. Snow's class, but we found this website, it's called getepic.com, and I noticed with my tutoring student, he gets overwhelmed when he looks at the length of a book, and he just gives up right there. So I thought using one-line textbooks or one-line books would kind of get him away from taking that. So, of course, our topic is firefighters. He must be a firefighter when he grows up. So, I'll show you it's kind of similar to what she had chosen earlier. But of course, the book pulls up, and some of the books we did not read the whole thing, so we only focused on certain aspects of the book. But it's pretty easy to navigate. You just click the page, and it turns the page blue. In the back, usually they have vocabulary words and definitions. I don't know if this one must not, but usually the books that we did read would have the vocabulary words and the definitions that they would see throughout the book. So he really enjoyed this. And I used my laptop for the first lesson, and it was the, what is it, the new Internet Explorer, but what is it? What am I trying to think of? What is it? No.
Chrome?
No. It's an E, but it's new. It's like with the new Windows 10. I don't know, but he could go on there and actually highlight certain words and sentences. The only thing is it didn't save it, so when you turn the page and you go back, it was gone. So we figured that out the hard way the first time. But all of my books that I used mainly came from this website.
Well, I'm just downloading an app for it. Apparently there's an app that actually.
Oh, it is?
I don't know how to download it.
There's an app. I have that.
Does it work?
I think it will.
And if you're,
Make it
another thing, you have to
fantastic.
technically pay for it if you're not a teacher, but I just said I was a teacher and put in my email and it came up, so they didn't even like ask me for really anything.
And you are. You're a teacher.
Yeah.
So my students both needed help with visualization or comprehension. And I remember, I think it was Dr. Blanchett's 510 class that we read the Beers book, Lincoln Can't Read What Teachers Can Do. And I remember one of the strategies she listed was logographic cues. So I had my students So the whole article we did in like 2 different sessions, but it was cut up by like paragraph. So I'd put stop after like a certain paragraph, and they would have to quickly draw an idea that helped them think about like if they needed to go back, like a cue, what to like they could remember for the paragraph. And it was nice working. We had the chance to work like one person taught while the other kind of co-taught. So it was nice having Morgan because one of my students got it like right away, and my specific vocal child needed a little more one-on-one. So she was able to, I think this example, she kind of led him through it because he had no idea. I don't really think he was reading, actually, like sitting there reading. He would like look at the paper and then look up, and Morgan would be like, are you reading? Like, are you actually reading? So we had that a little bit of a struggle, but we only had 30 minutes, so our lesson plans, we had to cut out a section. So my focal child, his best section was fluency, so that got cut because he really needed to practice with word knowledge.
And I ended up reading for the logographic cues that it can help with fluency, so I kind of got 2 parts in one section, because instead of having them stop and like jot down, kind of like Amber's, they were jotting down like a ton of information, you just draw a quick little cue or a question mark, like you don't understand that, and then they can just keep going, and then they can revisit it after. That was
What was that called?
logographic cues. And there's also one that's for during reading, and then there's also sketch to stretch for after reading. And my other child was like, "You get to draw?" The first time he told me, he's like, "I always have to write." So I get to draw? I was like, "Yes," but then they got to go to the writing section.
I get to draw.
Okay, so my students that I was working with, they were struggling with finding the main idea and then finding like supporting details to kind of like narrow it down and do the main idea. So as I'm working with them, I was trying to give them strategies that they can continue to use as they get older, because some of the strategies that they do, remember, through school, you don't end up using once you get older. So I was having them annotate 1 week, and so we were practicing. So we were practicing determining importance and underlining like key things. So we're working on only underlining things that are really, really important. And then we took what they underlined, and we only got to read a portion of it. But then we took everything that they underlined and we used it to do an oral summary, because we ran out of time to have them write it. But that was going to be the next step. And then we also worked with questioning, having them like write questions as they think to try and make their thinking more visual, but also practice using strategies that they can use later on.
Okay, so I have a question for you at the end of your tutoring. Thinking back when you started with thinking about motivation and central question and setting up a lesson and strategy and techniques and all that, do you have any takeaways that you're left with on the backside of tutoring? Related to any of those elements that you were required to sort of infuse into your lesson plan? Anything that you think you could take with you as you go into teaching and you're thinking about kids and their comprehension and understanding? And what might those be? So if you had any takeaways or any sort of, oh, okay, I should do it this way. Was there anything that stood out to you that you saw what looks like a lack of comprehension or understanding really maybe is just a lack of something else? Yeah.
I would say for sure, like the topics that you're talking about, them finding their motivation and engaging them is huge. It's so huge.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, they're just bored of what they're reading. And like you can think of yourself as a reader and stuff. You know, there's things throughout undergrad and stuff that's put in front of me, and I mean, earth science was the death of me. And I like it, but because it did interest me. Like I wanted, it was horrible. So I mean, for them, just think about yourself. I think that's the best way. Finding something that is like somehow right.
Like planning, how we kind of planned backwards, where we took that essential question. I mean, it was kind of tough at first getting started, but after I figured out what I wanted her to know by at the end, it actually did help me plan.
Yeah.
It made the planning a lot easier.
Yeah, so that whole backwards design thing,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, and you can take whole classes on that, but it is really interesting. There's a lot of really good books out there on it.
It's a little time consuming when you first start. I
Yes.
think if that's the way you think on a regular basis, it'll get easier. Because I mean,
Yeah.
they tell us that at the beginning of school year, you know, we don't do all.
Well, the fact
We
is,
don't have time.
exactly, and you can't do that. But even if you just said to yourself, okay, I teach 5th grade, and I'm going to try to do science this year that way. And next year, I'll have those. And next year, I'll try to do social studies. And I'll add to that. You got to be realistic.
Exactly.
You can't do it all at once. And that would be so overwhelming to me. So what about the strategy use and the techniques? Did you see more
Placeholders.
Yeah, did you see that they actually got more out of it when they had something to do?
Yeah, I like the DRTA with Mom.
Yeah, so
It
you
was very
kind of
helpful.
break it down.
Yeah. And they kind of got used, like my 2T, she got very used to like the structure and like, this is what we're gonna do, and then this is what we're gonna do next, and this is what.
Yeah.
So I feel like that kind of comforted her a little bit.
together. And I noticed some of the things that you guys shared, just showing them, you made the connections for them, but I think as you were saying, they're getting more independent with it. And even, Amber, you were talking about like breaking it down and summarizing it again and again and again. Sometimes they need that practice, and then when they get it, it's going to become more second nature to them. And so I think it's really cool that you guys put the effort into thinking yourself, how do I break these things down? You showed them how to do it. You made the connections in chart form, and then, okay, we'll break down again if you need me to. Because that's what strugglers need. And they feel success with that because you gave them a tool to do it. So I'm really, really excited to see all the great things you did. Even though you gave me just a little snippet, it's really cool to see it. And I'm so, on behalf of your students, appreciative of all that you did this semester. I know it was a lot, but I think it sounds like they really, really enjoyed it and got a lot from it. And I hope you left with some things you can take back in your classroom and work with your strugglers, especially. So, all right, so I guess we have to go next door. And I don't think we'll come back because I think